Hello and welcome to News Laundry interview. Today we have with us Poonam Agarwal. You all may know her as Bond Girl. And today we are going to talk about her latest book, which is India Inked, which is about how the elections take place in the biggest democracy and how she cracked one of the most important stories of her time. In 2018, when you had broken that story of electoral bonds, I wanted to ask you this question. How did you crack that story?
I would say the story was more about, it started with curiosity. The scheme said that the donor's name will not come in public, it will be anonymous. That's what the government's claim was. Whether the bonds are really opaque, as in the anonymous, the donors' names would be anonymous, nobody would know. With that question, this entire story started. I went to the SBI Bank, Shastri Bhavan, SBI Bank in Delhi. Exactly, I remember they said, "Madam, kaun sa bond aap maang rahe hain? What are you doing? Like, I'm buying a bond. I'll pay you money. You take it, let me go."
In the first order, there was no mention of, revealing the unique serial number. But then a contempt petition was filed.
Had CJ Chandrachud not pushed it, probably we wouldn't have. So, of course, credit goes to the Supreme Court also.
The RTIs filed by Lokesh Batra and Anjali Bhardwaj clearly revealed that, the SBI had asked for a permission from the Ministry of Finance.
The then Finance Secretary, he was part of the entire process. I said, "Sir, are you trying to say that the Finance Ministry was not aware of it?"
The discrepancy in the votes polled and the votes counted, and you broke that story for 2018 Madhya Pradesh Assembly elections.
As in, we journalists, we are doing our job. Political parties, they need to do their job.
What sort of an explanation would we need from Election Commission of India?
Why in these constituencies votes were surplus counted or deficit counted constituency-wise? The reasoning, not a generic answer.
You are saying that the surplus is still not there's no reason to explain the surplus.
So these are the questions which we need to ask, and we as a voter, we need answers to these questions because we are equally important stakeholder. Who votes?
Do they even have polling agents?
The awareness about Form 17C was zero.
Right.
Polling agents knew nothing about it.
If the government is initiating investigations on particular donors, then it's very evident that they had access to those data. This is not the only time where you have mentioned about the role of the opposition. It seemed quite upset with with their attitude.
Are you happy with the opposition?
But do you think that we have, this story has reached its logical end?
Don't leave any stone unturned as a journalist, because you never know when you hit the jackpot. You might end up hitting another jackpot.
Hello and welcome to News Laundry interview. Today we have with us Poonam Agarwal. You all may know her as Bond Girl. Poonam started her career in 2005 with NDTV, and then you worked with Times Now with Doordarshan, and then you were heading the investigations at the Quint. And her recent documentary, The Trap, for the BBC was the first ever Indian documentary to be nominated for Emmy Awards. And today we are going to talk about her latest book, which is India Inked, which is about the elections, how the elections take place in the biggest democracy, and how she cracked one of the most important stories of her time. But Poonam, thank you for doing this interview. I want to start the interview straight from this question. In 2018, when you had broken that story of electoral bonds, I was in ACJ doing my journalism college, and since then, I wanted to ask you this question. How did you crack that story?
Okay, so now you're making me feel much senior. But I'm glad that you read the story, because that was one story which we did not really get the kind of traction we were expecting. The story was not complicated. I would say the subject was not so much of interest to the common people. So when I did the story, and interestingly, before I answer your question, interestingly, even the political politicians didn't know about electoral bonds. So not much. They did not know how it works, and it's a form of a political donation a tool to give political donations. So this story, when it happened, if I just cut it short, I would say the story was more about, it started with curiosity. the scheme said that the donor's name will not come in public. It will be anonymous. That's what the government's claim was. And they said that it's the safest way of donation because donors feel arms twisted by the opposition party. So when this happened, there was, of course, a newsroom conversation happened. Is it really so? You know, the doubt that is government doing something for the donors and why they are doing it. But as per, you know, the election rules, the transparency itself was getting compromised and opaque. That was one question, obviously. But at the same time, whether the bonds are really opaque, as in the anonymous, the donors' names would be anonymous, nobody would know. So that with that question, this entire story started, working on the story. So initially when I spoke to the finance people, finance ministry, SBI people, senior level officers, and I checked with them that is it that it is really untrackable, people cannot trace the donor and anything. They said, yes, absolutely. There's nothing. Government has made sure that the bonds are sold in a way that the donor's name doesn't come out. I took their word, of course. There was nothing not to believe them, you know. I wrote an article on it, I think so, early 2018. Then what happened, the bonds were being sold from March to 2018, I guess. Yeah, March 2018. So, of course, I had a conversation since I worked on it. I have this knack, you can say whatever, this is a problem or whatever. Things get stuck in my head. So I love to follow up stories, and I feel every journalist should do it. So this story was stuck because, you know, somewhere I feel that, you know, I really need to work on it to find the truth. Maybe, you know, by buying a bond. Let's see how it looks like. What is it? Why is it so unique? And this was a scheme which you generally don't come across in a day-to-day life. So my editor, Mr. Raghav Behel at the Quint, he said, yeah, please go ahead, purchase one, because it was sold for like from 1,000 to 1 crore. So denomination 1,000 was enough, cheap enough to buy. So I went to the SBI Bank, Shastri Bhavan, SBI Bank in Delhi, and I had an account over there. I said, let's go and buy it from there easy, and let's see how it looks. I don't know how, I might sound a bit crazy, but I was keen to see how it looks. And then I went there, SBI Shastri Bhavan Bank people said, what are you talking about? Exactly, I remember they said, Madam, kaun sa bond aap maang rahe hain? So they went on to say different names. I said, no, electoral bond, just say donation dete hain. I checked with the manager as well. He wasn't aware of it. The manager, as in the head of the branch. Then I came back and
That's quite weird.
It was weird. See, not selling is one thing. Not being aware of it was another thing. I was pretty surprised. And then I said, okay, fine. Then I checked online. Then I found that it will be found in Parliamentary Street. So I checked with one SBI guy that, do you have any branch in Parliamentary Street and, you know, Parliament Street, and can I go and buy there? Then they said it's for corporate, like it's a corporate office and all that. So of course I went there. I was aware that what all documents you need. I went there. I asked the guard, where is the office? It's a huge building. So he said, Madam, this is the office on the ground floor. Then he said, then again I asked for the bond. At the ground floor, they were not aware. They sent me to the 5th floor. So when I went to the 5th floor and I asked for the electoral bond, the expression was a surprise. I don't know, maybe my appearance was a thing. Like a person, I wasn't late. I might not look like a rich corporate person, maybe.
So what did you tell them? Why were you there to buy a bond?
I was like, maybe they were saying, who is this girl who looks like a, you know, I don't know, whatever was there in their head. But certainly I didn't look like a corporate person. So, and I guess I was in t-shirt and jeans, as journalists generally dress up. So, you know, I just went there. I said, Madam, I need a bond, electoral bond. Do you sell it? And then she said, yeah, they do. She went to her seat first and then went to one cabin. And the guy in the cabin, and then he came out. He looked like a senior guy, and he said, you want to buy a bond? I said, yeah. And then I went to the cabin and, you know, he checked what I do, what not. And I just cooked up a story,
Yeah.
which I mentioned in the book.
Yeah.
Because of course I was not feeling comfortable mentioning journalists. So he said, fine, we will sell it. And what is the denomination? I said 1,000 rupees. I want to see. I'm really fascinated about it. So then the process, what Sumedha was so lengthy, so full of suspicion, as if I'm buying something illegal. That was a feeling like.
And later the RTI has also revealed that most of the bonds were of denomination, I think, 20,000, 1 crore?
Yeah.
And 1,000 was the least purchase.
Yeah, so 1,000 was the least purchase. And secondly, it was like, the process. ID cards and all that and questioning, like, what are you doing? Like, I'm buying a bond. I'll pay you money. You take and let me go. So the process also took a long. And the most interesting thing was they told me to wait outside. I was outside for some time, and they came out with, and they gave me in an envelope. And they said, madam, you can leave now. So the whole process of the questioning, then making me wait outside, making me feel as if something very important I'm buying, and probably I'm not, the person who should buy, or some suspicion. So this stayed with me.
Right. So, but you have also mentioned in the book that you had also asked them if there is any serial number, as journalists are all usually very curious.
Yes, I asked them that, I was asking in a way that, sir, is there any number? Okay, will I be traced? Because I made them realize that why I'm purchasing it. I want to see whether it's traceable or not. So this thing, I asked them in a subtle way, of course, in a conversation when they were filling the form and checking my ID proofs. So that is something happened. But yeah, the interesting was the second visit.
Yeah, because you had already found out by then that there is a unique serial number, and you wanted to confirm by buying the second bond
that it
is actually unique.
Unique or not. So the second time when I visited there, that time again I had to cook up a story.
What did you tell them?
It's in the book. For that, you have to read the book.
I think everybody should read this book.
Because if I tell the whole story, then the fun will be gone. Okay. So again, I went, and not just this, like getting forensic test done was also a bit of a, challenge, which I mentioned, but it was not a big challenge because I knew the place, and it's run by a very credible person. And so I went straight to that place, and considering the time and era we are living in, not many would agree. But when I went with the bond also, I was asked, what is the purpose? Will it be used for any, legal matter or not? So, of course, that's okay for me. But had it been, had the person known that what exactly they are going to come out with, through this test, I don't know how much they would have agreed, but yes, I feel that still also they would have done it. But that entire process of finding was also, I would say, Sumedha, it was like, hitting the jackpot, that feeling.
Yeah, because within 15 minutes they came out and said that there is a unique number. And it was visible under a UV ultraviolet
which
light.
I didn't know earlier, of course. Then I bought a torch, UV light torch, and found that.
I know, which was later found in your cupboard, which was very interesting.
Oh yes, so that's another part which, it was found in my, and this is, that's 6 years later, and the torch is still working. So, this entire process is something which will stay with me, and I feel blessed that I could write in a book, and it's going to stay there forever for people to read. And and I would only say that if you are focused in something, and if you feel that something is amiss, don't ignore as a journalist. Don't leave any stone unturned as a journalist, because you never know when you hit the jackpot. You might end up hitting another jackpot. So I feel that's where it worked.
Right. Does it still give you goosebumps thinking about that day?
Oh, I feel so elated. I feel.
What a story.
Yeah, what a story that came out. No one, and Subhash Garg was very interesting, because Subhash Garg the then finance secretary, he was part of the entire process. And now he's retired. So, of course, he gave interviews into 2024 to many people. I tried to reach him then. He wasn't accessible. Now I interviewed him and I asked him about the hidden number, unique hidden number under UV light. And he said, it was you who told us. We didn't know. I said, sir, are you trying to say that the finance ministry was not aware of it?
Yeah.
He said, yes, the finance ministry wasn't aware that it is recorded by the SBI.
But the RTI as filed by Lokesh Batra and Anjali Bhardwaj clearly revealed that, the SBI had asked for a permission from the Ministry of Finance to...
Yes, there is an
put
RTI. There is an RTI. So why would you ask for a unique serial number?
Yeah.
For audit purpose?
Which
is needed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the problem is of, black marketing and whatever.
Shell companies being
Shell
formed
companies
to
and whatever. How will you
donations.
track?
Yeah.
It's just like checks.
Yeah.
How will you track the check if there's no unique number? How will you track how many bonds were sold
That's so
and reimbursed?
For, finance secretary
So
to let us say that they never knew about this. I mean, after all these years, to still say...
Well, that's what he said. For rest, you need to read the book. But that was interesting, him telling that they didn't know that it's being recorded. Mr. Subhash Garg, and he said that, of course, the purpose is defeated if it is done.
Right. And there's also another thing which is mentioned in your book that, we all knew about that last year when the proceedings in the Supreme Court were going on. In the first order, there was no mention of, revealing the unique serial number, but then a contempt petition was filed, which asked for this, and in that petition your story was attached, and it was based on your story.
Yeah. So you have read the book.
It's my job. I'm interviewing you.
So what happened that the serial number petition was filed. So the first petition, which was filed by ADR, Association for Democratic Reform, it was on the electoral bond, saying that why it is unconstitutional. Then as and when the RTIs were filed and new information came up, so eventually supplementary petitions were filed in the court. So one petition was dealing with my unique number as well, which was mentioned in one of the petitions. But what happened, the judgment when it came out, it had no mention of the unique number. So when I read the judgment, and I mentioned in the book also that some other people also read, and the question was started, people started talking about that. Why no mention of unique number? One, because that shows that it wasn't anonymous. Apart from being unconstitutional, that's a separate story. Now, the second question was, since the SBI has been asked to give the data, will they provide the unique number or not? So that was the beginning of this, the talk of the town about the unique number. So that's when I pulled out my bonds after the judgment was out, and I pulled out the bonds and I, did a video separately.
Yeah.
It actually became more public this time in 2024, the story. People read and understood the importance of unique number. Probably earlier, nobody understood. So the unique number is the key to the entire connection between donor and the donee.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how will you connect?
Exactly. And after that, those two data sets were revealed, our organization with so many, all of us came together to do so many stories.
So many stories, and not just that, even Supreme Court was forced to tell the chairman of SBI to give an affidavit saying that they are not withholding any information related to bonds because they were not sharing the unique number.
Yeah.
Many hearings happened. So that is also, you have seen that CJI Chandrachud, he actually spoke about this again and again and again in the court. So then afterwards, SBI shared the whole data.
Right.
Had CJI Chandrachud not pushed it,
yeah,
probably we wouldn't have. So of course, credit goes to the Supreme Court also to make them share it.
Right. But do you think that we have, this story has reached its logical end? I mean, so many stories came out after that suggesting that there were, quid pro quo, not just with the BJP, but with other governments also from West Bengal, Telangana.
Yeah, Newslaundry has done TNM and many Reporters Collective.
But then that's it. I mean, it went out of the news cycle. There were no like investigations which.
So that's where
follow
your
those
job
stories.
is.
Yeah, I
Now
mean
you
by
have
government
now,
agencies.
See, there was a petition.
Yeah.
There was a petition which the court said, no, we are not going to look into it because our, jurisdiction was just to check whether it's constitutional or not. Go to the respective court for the inquiry or whatever probe is needed. So now the probe is not happening currently. That's
Right.
what you mean, that there is no logical conclusion. Now this probe can happen only probably if Supreme Court orders one.
Right.
And I don't think so government will initiate it. We all know why.
Yeah.
Nor will opposition demand it. We know it. Why? Opposition has taken
Yeah.
donation from bonds. BJP
Right.
or Congress or TMC or any political party. All of them have taken except for one. So who's going to demand for this?
Right.
Who needs to follow it up?
Right.
Journalists.
I hope so. We do more stories. But then, Poonam, the second thing I wanted to ask you about your second investigation, I think which was like really significant and is being followed by all of us till now, about the number of votes polled and the votes, the discrepancy in the votes polled and the votes counted. And you broke that story for 2018 Madhya Pradesh Assembly elections.
Yeah,
and
that was
since
the
then we
first,
have been
yeah.
seeing that pattern. And you broke that. You pointed out the similar discrepancies in 2019 Lok Sabha elections also.
Yeah.
How did you stumble on that story also?
वो तो I would say I also was surprised
Huh.
when I was first told by my source that something of this has happened, MP, because it's a data thing. I said, like, how is it possible? Because, EVM machine, it's a machine. It's like any other machine. If you press 10 times, it will record 10 times. So I was not ready to believe in it. And election commission is something I've never covered as a beat. I'm totally stay away from elections kind of a thing. So when the story came from one of my sources, he connected through social media. So he said that I can provide you the data, I can provide you all the information, as in, because he had the data of MP, and I said, okay, fine, just share it with me. So when I got the data and I myself looked into it, I was surprised that how is it possible? The numbers can't lie, it should be 2 plus 2, 4.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I said, okay, fine, I have both the data, I have enough document, and at that time I thought that maybe something happened. I did not really go deeper into it. I just spoke to the ECI about it, and they said they didn't really reply in that many words clarifying, but I did the story and I left it. Now, when 2019 elections were across the corner, of course, the same thing was in my head. And I said, let's keep a check. So I've written that about that in the book, that I was following it from that perspective. I was following votes polled data, whether they are uploading it or not. And so, because I had that thing in mind and I've seen it happening in MP. So then when I found this, I was pretty sure that something is wrong. The bigger problem or the bigger suspicion, I would say, in my head came in when they took away the data from the website, votes poll data from the website, ECI.
Yeah.
The moment I asked them about it, they pulled
withdrew
it down.
the data.
Thankfully, I downloaded
Yeah.
those and I still have a copy.
Huh.
Still.
And when you had sent the Election Commission of India questionnaire asking about these discrepancies, did they reply to you?
No, they did not say anything properly on that.
And then
They just said that it's a provisional data that you have taken from somewhere. They did not reply anything.
because I remember talking to a couple of former election commissioners about
Chief election commissioners.
former chief election commissioners about this particular subject, and I asked them, why there is a mismatch, and one of them gave me a very good answer that just imagine this as an account spreadsheet, and if you have a mismatch of even 1 rupee, then means it's something there is big going underneath it, because
So
this is not possible.
This is not precisely every CC. They have former CC. They maintain this stance that it's not possible. Some would come up with the explanation, maybe some EVMs were not counted, hence deficit in the count. What about surplus? Explain me that.
Right.
For God's sake, somebody explain me that. That how can you count 110 votes if somebody has pressed only, 100 times EVM machine?
I mean, for our viewers who might not have read Poonam's story from 2019 Lok Sabha elections, she had pointed out that there were 220 seats where there were surplus votes were counted, and one example is of Kanchipuram parliamentary constituency in Tamil Nadu, where over 18,000 surplus votes were counted. How do we explain these numbers? We have no answers.
No answers.
Yeah.
So it was 2019. Let's come to 2024. I've mentioned that about that.
And it's
also
the same story. And we're finding this after election.
And the worst is that we have no explanation.
Right.
ECI is not giving us explanation, which is raising our doubts.
What sort of an explanation would we need from Election Commission of India?
Simple. If it is suppose there is a discrepancy in 200 constituencies, please give us explanation why in these constituencies votes were surplus counted or deficit counted constituency wise. The reasoning, not a generic answer that some EVMs were not counted due to technical reason. No, it cannot be. You need to tell us assembly constituency or parliamentary constituency wise. Only then the explanation stands. And every political party candidate should ask this question.
Right. You have been raising this issue mentioning about this, how to do this on your Twitter. Every day, I think. Form 17C.
It was like a movement, I would say, in 2024 election. But this is something, see, journalism, as in we journalists, we are doing our job. Political parties, they need to do their job.
Right.
Because somehow, unfortunately, ECI considers them to be the important stakeholder, not us.
Right.
As in the voters. So they answer to their questions. Form 17C, when we asked that records the votes poll data, they said that we share it with polling agents. What about us?
Right.
We don't have access. Still, they don't make it public. Why?
Yeah.
So these are the questions which we need to ask, and we as a voter, we need answers to these questions because we are equally important stakeholder.
Yeah.
Who votes?
Right.
We.
Right.
And if you have seen, during 2024 elections, Lok Sabha elections, the trust on ECI has gone down, not just among political parties, but also among voters.
Right.
And it's a very dangerous trend.
Right. Right.
Because EC is a constitutional body and they should understand the responsibility they carry on their shoulders. If people stop believing in EC, Election Commission or the electoral process or the election, people might start boycotting it.
Right. Which is not good for the democracy.
Which is not good for the democracy, which is not good for our country.
Right.
That's the main issue. I would say that this is the time when Election Commission should buckle up,
right,
and answer to the questions in a transparent manner.
Next question I want to ask you about is the attitude of opposition political parties. But before you answer that question, there's a very, I think, very important paragraph in your book, which I would like to read out for my viewers. You've written that you said the opposition parties were unconcerned whether the BJP government was monitoring the donors associated with electoral bonds. Second, they had felt secure accepting donations through bonds, confident that the ruling government was unlikely to initiate investigations by agencies like the CBI or ED regarding these donations through bonds. If the government is initiating investigations on particular donors, then it's very evident that they had access to those data. So what is you have, and this is not the only time where you have mentioned about the role of the opposition. I seem quite upset with with their attitude.
Are you happy with the opposition?
No, I don't think so.
So it's the same story. Opposition, thankfully we have a leader of opposition in the parliament now, and I'm glad at least 2024 election was, in that way at least we have some democracy. Now, but when I wrote that, electoral bonds, see, all political parties, they think alike. And the scheme itself was keeping the donor's name anonymous, everything is hush-hush, no donor's name is going to come out. Agencies cannot track. It's not in public domain. So you have to understand donors, I mean to say political parties' mindset. Fine, BJP, we will not know who's donating to BJP, it's okay. But at least there will be no inquiry on our donors also. That will be the safeguard for us. So they were like, money's coming, let it come. Who says no to money? That was the attitude of the political parties.
Right.
They didn't care. They said, okay, fine. And they didn't even want to think in that direction. So their attitude was that, fine, whatever it is, we are getting money through electoral bonds, we will not say no. Because on electoral bonds, it was just not me. There were other people also. There were other experts, activists who were talking to political parties on this issue, telling them to bring it up.
Right.
But nobody wanted to talk about it because they were only bothered about the donation that was coming.
But they have the same attitude towards the votes mismatched, towards your story about the votes mismatched.
Yeah. Same problem. Actually, the Form 17C, if you remember, there was one video which was put out by Mr. Kapil Sibal.
Yeah.
Much later, in 2024 elections. Why? There was lots of conversation on it. There was demand on it. I feel that video, probably some politician should have put it much before the election started. The awareness about Form 17C was zero.
Right.
Polling agents knew nothing about it.
Do they even have polling agents?
Political parties, they do have.
The opposition party. I mean, I know the BJP for a fact that BJP is like really like, you know,
so
like
these polling agents are volunteers.
Very like disciplined about it. I mean, I'll share Delhi's data with you. Like in one of the constituencies, there are some, I think 119 polling booths, and the BJP has polling agents on 120 of them, and the opposition and even like both Congress and Aam Aadmi Party stand at zero.
Well, I would just like to tell you in this, after this book has come out, a few political parties they have approached and saying that, could you please train our polling agents what to do on a polling day, what to do on counting day. I said, tell them to read the book. You know, it's all there. I said, tell them to read the Election Commission website. You know, even their handbooks, their polling agent handbooks. You know, Election Commission is like a Bible.
Right. There's everything on their website.
That's the beauty about Election Commission. That's why I'm able to ask them questions based on the rules.
Yeah.
Or anybody is able to ask questions based on the rules. So the problem is that unfortunately, what I feel that the politicians also, the candidates, political party candidates who fight elections, for them, their only focus is to win the election, which is fine.
Right.
But you need to know the process. Somewhere I feel that there was a blind trust on Election Commission, which is there for years. Not now. It's there for past few decades. But suddenly that blind trust has gone now, because political parties can see what the problems are. The moment we ask for polling, votes poll data, though so many things happened in 2024 elections, the way Election Commission responded to the political parties, forget about civilians or citizens, they didn't even reply to us.
Right.
But the way they were responding and the attitude or the behavior raised a lot of doubt in the heads of the political parties also.
But do you think any opposition political party is still doing better in terms of, in terms of raising proper questions from the Election Commission of India, and be in just, strengthening their organization? Because I think strengthening your organization is very important if you're, dealing with the election processes, because, I mean, BJP is really good at it.
BJP is certainly doing their best, and their workers are also active, I'm sure. But what is needed is the opposition. They need to be...
But any political party, any opposition party in your view is doing better is better. Then
I think let's people guess, make their opinion.
Okay.
I'm not here to give my opinion on that. I refrain from that.
Okay. But the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is role of media. And while I was reading your book, I think I must say this, I was really jealous of you from the times, from the time you had started. your journalism in 2005 when you started from NDTV, and there was a special investigation team, and within 2 years you were part of it. I don't think we see such departments or continue to exist in newsrooms.
You're still blessed. You work in News Laundry, an organization, reputed ones. You guys do meaningful stories, and you guys are, one of the prime digital space. Even, I would say Gen Zs, this generation, they like your platform a lot because maybe the way it is presented, they resonate with it. Yes, I joined journalism in a period which was not really golden. Maybe silver, but yes, that was a time when we had lots of this liberty in that way, that the only thing that we used to think about was the risk. The story, while doing the story, that we'll face litigation, whether the person who's doing wrongdoing is being caught, he'll file litigation or not. There's a lot of freedom. But yes, freedom with some checks and balances. There were. I wouldn't say no completely. But yes, we had the liberty to work on those stories. And this thing was not there. Social media harassment, being trolled, getting notices was also good. Getting notices from the department, that means that you have done something
really good.
Really good, and you're being, asked a question or whatever. But now there's a different kind of harassment about which I've mentioned, that ED raids, CBI raids, and, organizations are targeted directly. Journalists are targeted directly. So nobody wants legal hassle in their life. And journalists, we are also, we are not very, means we are paid normal pay, I would say. And legal cases, it's very expensive affair. So this stress, which we are seeing in the past few years, I would say almost a decade, it's a problem for many journalists. But I would say I take it in this also at a stride, because earlier if I would check with 2 sources, now I check with 5 sources. Cross-check and cross-check and cross-check. But I would say still you just can't refrain all problems because they find a way to harass you through social media or whatever. See, social media also, it's like dying down. For 3 days they'll troll you. 4th day they'll find someone else and move on. That is also, the only thing is that the legal
the legal battles, because they're costly.
And maybe that pushed me to do law. So I'm an advocate now.
Oh, yeah, that's why your Twitter mentioned. I was wondering that you are an advocate also.
So that is, by the way, my first, what should I say? I wanted to be a lawyer in my college days. First thing was that, but then journalism happened in my life.
Journalists from that time tell me that, at that time the the government officers would leak documents on Gmail.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if that's an exaggeration, but somebody was telling me this at a press club.
Gmail, if somebody received or sent, then he is like, he never thought about it there.
But has it become tough to talk to people inside the government?
Of course. Like, I've covered CBI.
What's the difference?
I've covered CBI for a good 5-6 years. And meeting CBI officials or even meeting the CBI director was not a big problem. Seek an appointment, meet him. Getting information was not so difficult, or I would say it was not a closed door.
Right.
It was tough. It was not a low-hanging fruit. But we would also find many whistleblowers coming out, talking about it. And do you hear any whistleblower now? This term has disappeared, I guess. So that time it was, the access was there a lot, much more than what you find now. Although I don't cover CBI anymore, but what I hear from some of my colleagues, former colleagues, that is really getting all these institutions are shut. Enforcement Directorate. Earlier officers would tell you, explain you things, and tell you that this is what it is. If you go to them and ask them that what the case is and how much can we, report? But, that kind of understanding or bonding, it's a miss maybe now. At least I don't feel that much. Accessing any agency is definitely getting tougher.
Right. I mean, even if you get access to the basic information, then maybe that can lead to bigger investigations. But now that's not the case anymore.
Not just that, and you also, I would say it's lots of learning also. When you sit with all these officers, you learn a lot. Right. See, we are coming from different backgrounds. What we learn from the senior officers is also, we carry forward.
Right.
So I feel somehow this is, of course, a big deterrent. The organizations are, getting shut completely, and they give you information the much they want. That's a problem. You can't become a mouthpiece of any organization. You should not. Yeah. Report it, right. But you need to take out your own information as well. So 2G and CWG was, of course, it was during UPA government.
Yeah.
So that time, yes, we never faced any problem. Oh, it was fun. It was good. It was a lot of things were, coming out from every corner, different sources, and it was big. It was big because, UP government lost.
Yeah, and those were the stories which brought down the government. I mean,
yeah.
And now we don't have, we rarely see stories, which exposes
that is one. Then RTI.
Yeah.
RTI is also getting weak day by day.
Yeah.
So these are the problems, because now we heavily depend on RTIs.
Yeah.
You guys have done so many stories. Electoral bonds, so many stories are done. So what we are looking for now, RTI responses, that too is not coming anymore.
Right. You have started your YouTube channel, Explain X. Do you think it's the way forward?
All of us have shifted to a digital space. I'm a freelance journalist, and I feel that that's my safe corner. And yes, although I am not able to give that much of time, I want to expand it, and I feel that space gives me freedom to talk about issues the way I want to talk about. And that's what I feel. Of course, it's not it's not the base of my survival. It's not, I'm not generating income out of it much. But yes, that's a space I want to continue. Because I feel my viewers over there are people who are keen to know about electoral process and want to know about certain things, government policies, which they need to know. Things which are otherwise lost, I feel, in the crowd.
Right.
Sometimes you watch 10 news, you register none. But I try to focus on issues primarily which are selective. That's why I put very less videos.
Yeah.
Very selective. Elections, of course, anything, any policy, anything that they know. So yes, YouTube is the way forward, but again,
but sometimes I wonder if it can substitute, the kind of investigations which was done by, organizations.
That
during
will be
the
a tough
UPA
call
time.
because, investigative report, it requires a lot of money.
And patience and time and resources,
Patience,
everything.
it requires a lot of resources.
Yeah.
So, it's tough. It's tough, and yes, for investigative reports, you need some sort of backing.
Yeah.
And that's all I can say right now. I don't think so. I can do it on my channel in that way, the way I want to.
Thank you, Poonam. Thank you for joining us. And I think everybody should read this book because it's a great primer.
Please do read this book. And also, if you can give my Twitter handle, you can leave your message, tag me. I would love to hear from you people, because I am one person, I love to take feedback, connect with people and know what they think, and that's what my YouTube channel is also all about.
Right.
So please do.
Yeah, and I think the book is a great primer for people who are trying to understand Indian elections.
And also for journalists.
Yeah, yes. Thank you, Poonam.
Thank you
so much.